Hey everyone, my name is Faina and welcome to Bookish Paradise. So let's face it, is it a bad habit or is it in our nature to just go out, buy books, and then not read them? I swear it's like a whole different hobby, reading books and buying books. So a few months ago, my husband and I went for my birthday to this beautiful bed and breakfast, and on one of the days, we had planned to go to a show in a theater and then have dinner after. However, after the show, which by the way, it was Cinderella and it was so beautiful, after the show, we had about like an hour and a half to spare and there was nothing really to do around the area. We took out our phones and we decided to see, okay, what's around the neighborhood? And of course, one of the greatest places on the planet was just around the corner, Barnes & Noble's. I told him right away, I'm like, come on, it's a sign. It's a birthday gift of all birthday gifts. We went to Barnes & Noble's, we were there for the full hour and a half, and I remember we were all dressed up beautifully because we went to the theater, so I was wearing a dress, he was wearing his suit, and we were walking around being all bougie in Barnes & Noble. It was great, and I remember my mother-in-law, my husband's mom, FaceTiming me, and she was like, wait a second, are you guys at a bookstore? Seriously? What happened to dinner? And in my head, I'm like, you know what? I think this is so much better than going to dinner. This was great because every year that I was initially dating my husband and then we got married, every year for 5 years on my birthday, he always got me some kind of books. Whether it's from like an Amazon wishlist that I had, or he knows I was talking about some books for a long period of time and he would get them for me. So it was tradition. I had to get books on my birthday as a separate gift. But what happens when you keep buying books and not reading them? You have a TBR pile from the floor to the ceiling. And that's exactly what's happening to me. I have such a huge TBR pile. I have to start reading it. One of those years, my husband bought one of those books, so keep watching to see what tattoo he wanted inspired by this book. My goal for this year is to finally tackle my TBR pile. So I have a list of books that I've owned for 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 years that I have to finally read. The first book I really want to tackle this year is Treason of Thorns, and this is by Laura Weymouth. The way I got this book was from a Valentine's Day book swap that a friend of mine hosted back in 2020. So I've had this book for well over 2 years now. The way that worked was we created Amazon wish lists. We put them in our description on Instagram. I would go to one person's, like I was assigned a person, kind of like a Secret Santa, but for Valentine's Day. So I was assigned a person, I went to the description, I went to their Amazon wish list, and I chose one of the books that they had listed there. You can set up your list as highest priority high, low, and lowest priority. I selected, whichever book looked to be the highest priority, and the best part about it is it doesn't show the receiver's address, and it doesn't tell them that a book or any item was ordered from there. So I placed the order and it was shipped to their house. And the same thing happened to me. So whoever my person was, they went to my Amazon wish list, picked a book, and it was shipped to me on Valentine's Day. And it was nice because it came right on Valentine's Day. I had set this book to be high priority. So not highest, I had a couple of highest. I had a number of low and lowest, but this is one of the high ones. The reason I really wanted it was because I've been getting into a lot of series at that time. Series are great. I love series. You finish one book, there's a second one, there's a third one. You get to follow the characters, right? But once in a while, it gets a little too overwhelming and you need to, freshen things up. So I tried to get some more standalones. And this is a pretty nice standalone book. There's no sequel to it that I know of. Another reason that I chose it was because, come on, take a look at this guy. It's so pretty. This is one of the books that I have judged by its cover, and rightfully so because it's very beautiful. I read the plot, of course, I read the synopsis, and it sounds very interesting and I can't wait to get to it. The next book that I really want to get into is Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman. A long time ago, on my birthday, this was back in 2019, my aunt got me a 6-month subscription to Book of the Month. I've received multiple gifts like that, so I've gotten Book of the Month a couple of times in the past. But one of them was this book. I was looking through my shelves and I found this book and I was like, oh my God, I completely forgot about it. When did I even receive it? And I remembered Book of the Month had this little indentation here, that states October. So this was October of 2020. I didn't choose a book of the month every single month. You have the choice of skipping. So I had skipped a couple of times, but then October of 2020 rolls around, and then I saw this and I was like, you know what? It sounds incredible. Why not choose it? I didn't do much research on it beforehand. I just read the description and I was like, you know what? I'm choosing this as my book. What I didn't know is that it actually has an extensive history to it. This is actually the prequel to Practical Magic. And some of you might know that there was a movie that came out back in like 1998 called Practical Magic. I never watched it, but after hearing about it, I really want to read it and then go watch the movie. I did some further research and I found out that there's a total of 4 books. And then I thought, wait, should I read them in the order of release? Because this is a prequel, there's book 1, there's book 2, then the prequel, then there's another book that came out. Or should I just read it in chronological order? Read the prequel first, and then go on with the main book. So the first thing that I did was I went to Alice Hoffman's personal website, and she did discuss this briefly. But she just said you can do it either way. You can do it in chronological order or in the order of release, that it doesn't really matter. I decided to go on Goodreads, and one of the reviews that I read stated that they prefer reading it in the order of release because that's the way that the author had intended it. That's how they wrote it, so we can follow that mindset of the release order. So I looked it up, and in chronological order we have Magic Lessons, The Rules of Magic, Practical Magic, and The Book of Magic. But the order of release, which is what was preferred by a lot of readers, is Practical Magic, Rules of Magic, Magic Lessons, and The Book of Magic. After putting in a lot of thought to it, I do want to read it in its release order rather than chronological, which is a slight disappointment because I do own the prequel, which if I wanted to go in chronological order, I could start with this book, but I don't want that. I do prefer going by release order when it comes to any series. So I think I might just put this down for a bit and maybe see if my local library contains all of the other books, and then I'll just request those and then get to this one. The next book that I found on my shelf that I really want to get into is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. So I also got this from Book of the Month. This was from May of 2021. I requested it for that month and then I put it on my shelf, never to be seen again. Generally speaking, I really do enjoy Greek mythology. I've read a number of books with it. I've actually watched so many videos growing up on Greek mythology and other mythologies. This one is very interesting because it focuses on Ariadne, who is the princess of Crete. And if you've heard of the Minotaur, she is the sister of him. So this story revolves around her brother, that's the Minotaur, and the Prince of Athens, I believe. Yeah, the Prince of Athens named Theseus. And we're going to see if he can vanquish the beast. This next book, or even I can just say next series, that's a no-brainer that I want to read, is the Shadow and Bone trilogy. The reason I ordered this was I had found out that Netflix was going to be making a show. I had ordered this set on Amazon back in December of 2020. So it's been a while. It's been collecting dust here for a long time. I was really excited about these because it was like one of the first collections that I owned. And then I saw the worst thing ever. They put this here. And mind you, this is not a sticker. It's not something that I can try to get off. No, it's on the cover. And like, come on. If I had ordered this maybe around now, it's probably not going to be there because it's already been on Netflix for a little while, so I'm pretty upset about that. I did, however, do a little bit of research, and I had found on Amazon a box set that does not contain these little stickers that are on the covers, so I'm gonna leave a link in the description below so you guys can go and get that. What better way to continue than with Six of Crows? I have heard many things, such as you don't need to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy before reading this duology. This duology is next in line from the Grishaverse series. I remember getting this as a gift many years ago by my husband, and I think the only reason he had gotten this for me is he went to a local bookstore that we have, and he was trying to pick out some books, and he saw the second book. So Six of Crows is our first book, Crooked Kingdom is the second one. He had opened it up, he had saw this image, and he was like, that's it, I need to get a tattoo like this. So still waiting on that tattoo. Maybe he'll get it eventually, but I had shown this to him again recently, like a few weeks back, and he was like, oh my God, I'm still in love with it, so we'll see. But going back to if you have to read this Shadow and Bone trilogy beforehand, people have said that there's very minor references to that series in the Six of Crows, so I don't think it's that important from what people have said, but me personally, I want to read it just to get those references and because I really want to watch the Netflix show as soon as possible. Following up my beautiful pile of TBR books, we have The Lady Rogue by Jen Bennett. And excuse this little rip here. I got this online somewhere for $2. And I was like, listen, it's okay. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. If I didn't make that sacrifice, for multiple books, I'd probably be broke right now. So I think it's a small price to pay, but it's still a very beautiful cover, which of course always has me influenced. One of the main reasons I decided to buy this book in the first place is the genre. I generally gravitate towards fantasy, but this one is classified as adventure and historical fiction with like a slight hint of fantasy because there's a couple of references to magic in it. So I've heard. To summarize it, this book takes place in 1930s Romania, and it makes a lot of references to Vlad the Impaler, or as we'd like to call him, Vlad Dracula. So the last book that I have that I really want to get to this year is actually the oldest one from this pile. It's called A River of Royal Blood. Let's just take 1 second to appreciate the beautiful sprayed edges. I had received this book during the time where I was subscribed to Fairy Loot, and this is from the November 2019 box. I temporarily stopped my Fairy Loot subscription back in April of 2020, but I still haven't resumed it. It was for financial reasons at that point, but the reason I haven't resubscribed to it is because there's so many book box subscription services, and I really want to compare all of them, or at least most of them. I'm actually going to be making a video comparing a couple of different book box subscription services and seeing which ones are worth the hype and which ones aren't, so stay tuned for that video. To summarize, this book is a North African-inspired fantasy world where two sisters have to fight to the death for the crown. Listen, when there's anything to do with royalty and fantasy, I gravitate towards that instantly. Maybe I'm a princess in a fantasy realm in a different dimension, or I am a kitchen's maid who makes delicious pastries that earn the king's favor. I don't know, anything's possible at this point. When it comes to the size of the book, it is smaller than what I'm usually used to. This is a little bit more than 300 pages, and for me, that's like a very quick light read. However, the plot of the story is so incredible that you have to read it. And this is gonna be maybe actually towards the top of my list. Another reason why I wanna get to this book is I heard a sequel came out called The Queen of Gilded Horns, and I think it was back in March of 2021. So long story short, I have a lot of books here that came out years ago that I'm still not reading. These books are just a couple of droplets in a whole ocean of books that I've yet to read, but I do currently own, so hopefully this will make some kind of dent this year. What I really want to know is, do you go through your TBR pile, or are you like me, buying new books, reading half of them, buying some more books, only reading 1 or 2 of them, buying even more books, not reading them, and storing them from floor to ceiling, your TBR pile? Let me know down in the comments below what you do, because I need to see if I'm normal or not with what I do. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Can't wait for you guys to join me again in my small corner of bookish paradise.